Hey everyone. I wanted to share my story around ALS and what's happened in the past couple of years to give you an introduction to what's going on. So, as we get into this, I hope you'll bear with me. It's a lot of content, but hopefully, this will give you a little more insight into what's happening. One of the things I always start out with is it's interesting to have this kind of creep up on you. You really don't know what's happening or when. And in July of 2021, that's kind of when we first realized something was starting to happen. Now, mind you, it wasn't something I was expecting or thinking about ALS at that time. I was unable to screw in a little screw or hand unscrew a screw. Wow, that's a lot of screwing words in there. The It was interesting because I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm losing my fine motor skills. Shortly after that, I was struggling to actually undo a light bulb. Same kind of thing. I was struggling just with some basic fine motor skill types of things. In August, I had a visit with my primary care physician. He ran a few of the typical hand tests. He said your hands are strong, but it appears there might be something going on neurological. So he made an appointment for me to see a neurologist after Thanksgiving just to see what's going on. So he just wanted to have me checked out. So along the way, a few other things started to happen. In September of 2021, the unknown kind of grew into frustration. I started struggling with buttons on a shirt. Other fine motor skills seemed to be escaping me. I was just starting to really have difficulty with anything regarding my hands, and anytime I had to like put my fingers together to do work, just wasn't going very well. And I'm like, I really don't know what's going on. Then October hit, and that's when I really started to panic a little bit. I was typing along one day at my home office that you see here, and I was just like typing away, doing good, and all of a sudden, I wasn't typing. I can't explain it. I couldn't get my fingers to press the keys. This went away, but still, it was the first time I felt like something was going to impact my career and my livelihood and really have a huge impact on my family because I don't know what it meant for that to happen. So at this point, a friend of ours recommended we go see a hand specialist that she worked with, and he was a musculoskeletal guy, and deals with a lot of different issues like that. So we're like, hey, you know what? It can't hurt. We don't know what's going on. Let's go find out. So I went to see the hand specialist. He did a full range of tests on my hands, my arms, even my legs and feet. Along the way, he was like, you have some issues, but they're nothing that we can help with here. So it's not related to anything like just, any injuries in your hands, or it's not ligaments, it's not muscular. It's just none of those things were coming up. So he wrote up a nice review of everything he tested, and then he recommended that I get further tested for a few other things, and on that list was ALS. What's interesting about that is that same time frame, shortly thereafter, we were in Washington, D.C. with the family, and we had a good weekend, and then sent them away, and then I read the report again. I'm like, well, I wonder, what does this ALS thing mean? I mean, we hear about all types of different diseases and different ailments people have, and it doesn't mean that we know exactly what that is unless it touches our lives. So I went and looked it up on the Mayo site, and was struck with the first thing that caused fear for me, because the first part of the diagnosis from the Mayo was the 2 to 5 year lifespan upon diagnosis. There's nothing like facing your mortality head on and going, oh wow, if this is truly ALS, this is going to be difficult. During that same time, I was in a Bible study at Grace Church in Minnesota, and we were covering some key verses that we wanted to learn and talk about timing. This verses come from Philippians. Don't be anxious about anything, but every situation, with prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And this is the part, verse 7 really hit me. The peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. That was really the first time that I had to sit there and say, if God is doing this, if this is, if this is something that God has put me in the place to be a part of, He's going to figure it out. I can't figure it out. We're going to keep going. Now, at this point, we really hadn't had neurological testing done at all. So, my wife and I discussed it, and we decided to wait until everyone was together at Thanksgiving to let them know, let all my kids know what the likely diagnosis was. At this point, I was, based on what I'd seen and what we were reading and what we were learning outside of a doctor, it felt like this was going to be ALS. So December 2021, we actually, right after we had met with the neurologist, he sent it through all kinds of testing. When I say all kinds of testings, I had CAT scans, I had EMTs, I had all kinds of things done. Multiple vials of blood taken. It was just like, wow. There was a lot of work being done. And a lot of it is done in ALS just to figure out if you have the disease and to understand it could not be that disease. It could be something else. So they're trying to eliminate everything else. So we're going through all this stuff, and eventually they refer us to the ALS clinic in Minnesota to say, to go to the next step of the process, because at this point, everything's continuing to point to ALS, but they couldn't firmly diagnose it that way. Around the same time, my wife and I were planning to be on a missions trip in Kenya in January. Well, with COVID on a resurgence, me not knowing what my health condition was, seeing it get worse along the way, trying to understand what that means, what would be the impact, not wanting to potentially be stuck in a foreign country because of a COVID outbreak, we decided we need to cancel the trip. Rather than giving up the time off, we actually decided to convert that trip to a Florida trip. So we went to Florida, traveled along the coast there, and ended up in Key West. But a lot of that time was spent with Sheila and I taking time to really evaluate what's happening and what the impact will be to our family and what we should do. In that process of time, a couple of other verses came to mind, but really a verse that I can't even tell you how many times I've heard people talk about be given to them when they're in a need. The Romans 8:28, and we know God causes everything to work together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purposes. You know what? He can work it out. We really had to land on the comforting idea that this was God's plan, not ours. So it was tough. We took the trip, enjoyed the time together. It would turn out to be one of the last times I was able to travel really easily. And I'm glad we did it. I would not regret it. It was a great time with my wife in a lot of places in Florida we got to visit. So along that trip, we also made the harder decision to say the house we're in is not suitable for my needs if it gets worse. We needed to get to a single level where the primary living is on one level, and is more accessible at the end of the day. So that led us to start house searching. Well, we ended up searching for a house, found one in Kentucky. On March 2nd, of 2022, we closed on a house, or we had an offer accepted on a house. We didn't close yet. Offer accepted on a house after getting a video tour with our agent and just walking through the house with them, making an offer 4 hours later. It was that time in the market, and them accepting the offer. And we were like, okay, now we have to sell our house. So we ended up selling our house a week later. And that was interesting, as well as we put it on the market within a week. Our house was sold as well. And God is so good. He took care of us in all of that. That was followed up with, after we finished the house sale, we then had to pack. We've been living in this house for 23 years. We raised 4 kids there. There's a lot of stuff in the corners. So we started the process of cleaning out, selling, giving away, doing all this. And we thought we cleaned out so good. We had friends come for 3 weekends straight to help us pack. I can't even say how great it was to have friends that would just step in and help. Because at this point, I couldn't really lift a lot. I could still do a little bit of work, but my arms were pretty much shot. I was not able to really help out. So a lot of work got done by friends. And then my kids ended up coming back into town to help us out on the final days of the move. So they ended up helping us pack, and it was really a way to say goodbye to the house as well. So we hit early April. In early April, my oldest daughter, Christina, had purchased a house in Frankfort, Kentucky, and the same area we were headed to. So we ended up moving with her for a week. She survived us. So she made it. She's still doing good. It's pretty funny, but we got through that because she had just moved in not more than a week or two before we got there, and so we stayed with her for a week while we closed our house, and then moved into our house that following week, mid-April. It's pretty amazing. That happened in a couple months' time. We really had to lift a lot and get to where we are today. In that process, we found a great church, Capital City Christian Church. We started attending there probably really quickly in the weeks after we got here, and then there was a message that the doc that's what they call a pastor, the doc did for us, and in that sermon, he talks about the gentleman who was talking to Jesus, and Jesus asked him, "Do you believe?" And he responded, "I believe. Help me with my unbelief." And that was definitely a huge part for me because I realized that my faith was strong. I believe that God had a plan, but man, some days it's a little hard to take, admittedly. So now we're in Kentucky. Now what? Well, we were not able to get into the ALS clinic at the UK until September. So in July, we started noticing worsening symptoms, including legs twitching, things like that, preliminary symptoms typically of losing functionality. Well, we made it down to the clinic in September, and we met with the neurologist at the UK and that entire team. They confirmed the diagnosis for ALS, but man, that clinic is awesome. It's probably one of the best clinics. Well, in our opinion, it's the best clinic around. They have a great team there. They took care of us. They immediately started taking care of what we needed. Stuff would show up at our door like, oh, I guess they decided we needed that, and we got like a wheelchair to help with us, and some other features like a transfer bench for the tub. They just send us stuff like right away to make sure that we have what we needed to make it, and it's really awesome having a group of people understand that this disease changes quickly, and any help they can give us to make it easier is awesome. So we're truly thankful to have moved here and really been able to join that ALS clinic because they're doing awesome. Also, during that same time, I started working as a nutritionist. At this point, there's just not a lot you can really do to cure ALS. So we were looking at anything we do to help with making me healthier and better, realistically. Also, after that diagnosis, we bought a bunch of new gadgets. I've always been anti-smart home, and now I have a smart house. We run with Echoes and her name, Alexa. She's the one who's got us taken care of. It allows me to actually do a lot of functionality with voice since I can't use my hands. It's really important. With smart bulbs and other things, I was able to like turn the lights on in my office and do other functionality. It's been really good. So we're sitting here now. We're like, sure, we have ALS. There was a we also had went up to Minnesota for a wedding, and we happened to see a sailboat that you can actually put on a shelf, right? And it said on there a verse, and it just really hit me at that time. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster. So important. To give you a future and a hope. Not for disaster. There's a plan. I'm a part of it. Family's a part of it. God knows what's going on. It's so awesome. So shortly after that, I announced to the world through LinkedIn and my blog that I had ALS, and started a new section on my blog called Working with ALS, and started describing how it's impacting my ability to work and what we're doing to compensate. Come the fall of that same fall in October, Uh, I've always presented. All of a sudden, I couldn't advance a slide deck, or I couldn't run code in a presentation. So this is the first opportunity that my wife Sheila joined me, and we presented SQL Saturday in Memphis, and it was awesome. She did great, and it was a way to prove once again that just because I have a disability doesn't mean I can stop doing. Doesn't mean I have to stop doing the things I love. So that's awesome. That's why we never give up. It's interesting that even Paul talked about that in 2 Corinthians 4. This is why we never go. Though our bodies are dying, our spirits renewed every day. Present troubles are small and they won't last very long. Yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. And it's just important for those of us who have faith to remember we don't look at the troubles we see now, but let's fix our gaze on what cannot be seen. For those things will soon be gone, but things we cannot see will last forever. So while I'm dealing with this disease and God has a plan for it, it will not last forever. So it's really important to understand that. But not everything is rosy. Even in the midst of my faith and the hope that we have and the understanding that God has a plan, there are hard days. There are dark times. There's emotional struggles. Due to my inability to move quickly, like I really couldn't get a bunch of things done right away. I was basically eliminated or not considered for a meeting at work on site because I couldn't make the travel happen. We actually didn't know what we needed to do, frankly. And this is something that would never have been an issue before. For the first time, I felt like this disease was truly taking away one of the last areas where I still felt I could be used. Now I realize that's a false notion, but it doesn't change the emotions of it. It doesn't mean what I thought was horrible or incorrect. I cried for hours. It was truly an emotional breakdown for me. And if I could say anything to others who are dealing with this disease or something like that, it's okay. We are going to have days. It doesn't make us less hopeful. It means we have to deal with the emotions of where we are. You can't fake it. You have joy in your life, but it needs to be grounded in something other than everything being perfect. And frankly, in my case, I just needed to let it out. It goes back to that verse I started out with in Philippians 4 about experiencing God's peace, which exceeds anything we understand. It took a while. I needed to get that out of my system. It makes me as real about this as I possibly can be. But it was hard. It was very hard. So, as we started into the next phase, it's kind of interesting because since that time and the breakdown, that'd be in November, my wife and I have presented and traveled the country and presented in multiple locations and dealt with changing circumstances along the way. We started out, like we said, in Memphis, and we did SQL Saturday, and she was able to run the presentation for me, and she learned how to do some basic work on what's called a notebook in our technology, and she was able to help me run code. In Vegas, we were at a different conference where we presented on some Power BI content. That was fairly straightforward. Then we went out to Vancouver, Washington, right north of Portland, and we presented that SQL Saturday. And there we did some fairly complex work around some healthcare data and really cool stuff. We ran the entire thing in a notebook. First time for that. Didn't even actually really have a presentation in PowerPoint. Then this past spring we presented in Louisville at the user group meeting, a little bit more work on some notebooks. That one and in Jacksonville, SQL Saturday, which we just did in May of 2023, My wife actually had to do more than just push buttons. She got the privilege of typing code and building content along the way for live demos. She did great. It goes to show that together we are stronger, and we have to rely on people. We can't if we can't do it. How can we get things done? This was awesome. On that trip, I skipped a little bit on the trip. We actually traveled with a wheelchair. So the first trip with a walker, I believe, was Vancouver, and then we traveled with an electric wheelchair into Jacksonville, and we did a lot of research to get that right. But I will say, without a doubt, Delta completely treated us great. Love the way they helped us make sure we got through everything. TSA was awesome about the whole thing. We actually had a really good travel experience in what could have been a little more complicated than our first time around for both of those situations. So I'm really thankful for the accessibility teams in both places and their ability to help us get through that. Back in November, we had some friends from church install smart switches throughout our entire house. I can't flip a switch, and these switches allow me to once again voice control more places in our house than I could before, which is really awesome. And then we also ended up getting a Fire TV that's also voice controlled. Not where it has little voice controls. I can actually navigate the entire thing because it has an Echo built right into it. So it's pretty awesome. We're continually adapting. There are changes that come with ALS. We buy a lot of accessibility equipment. Some stuff works great for me for a long period of time. Some things last only a week. Some things don't even work when we thought they would. We've borrowed a lot of equipment here and there. We've bought equipment, and that's just the nature of what's going on. We get lots of meetings with vocational rehab here in Kentucky, with the ALS clinic, respiratory therapists, doctors. It feels like every week there's another doctor I'm seeing to handle some other situation that's coming up. That's just the nature of our life right now. On a huge win, our bathroom was finally remodeled to full completion in May of 23. It was awesome. We now have a fully zero entry bathroom that allows me to easily navigate and my wife to work with me in showers. It's awesome. At the end of the day, that's my story. What I see as part of my story is how I can make a difference. This video is one way. Sharing my story and not being ashamed of what's happened, being bold about what's out there, that's important. I blog about the tools I'm using. I have a Working with ALS link on our blog, and I continually try to talk about those tools. This is the first step in a YouTube channel. This is one of the first videos we'll produce, and we'll hope to do more. Sometimes it's hard to keep up. I can't always do a lot of things at once, so it'll be hit or miss on when content gets created. But I want to create the content so other people can experience the tools, can understand how things work, and I can help them. How can I help other people? They may not have the same exact disease I have, but maybe something I'm sharing with them can help them make their day better, continue working, whatever it looks like. I'm trying to stay active and visible. We're not shying away from presentations. I'm being very open about my situation and what we're doing to make it better. I'm truly thankful for my company. 3Cloud has been absolutely incredible in this whole process. When I got diagnosed, we had to change how I worked. We didn't know what the impact would be. Frankly, I didn't know what the emotional roller coaster would be, especially early on. And they've given me the opportunity to contribute and to still work with them and I think do some really cool and great things to help the company grow as we continue to grow as a company. So that's awesome. We'll be creating a team for Walk for ALS in Lexington this year in 2023. So hopefully, if you see this and you want to join the team, look for Team Data on Wheels. Figured it was not a good reason to change it because, well, I'm on wheels. So it made sense. At the end of the day, we just really want you to know that God has a plan. I don't know what it is. I know I'm a part of it. My wife and I totally believe we're a part of it. Whether you have faith or not, we have faith, and that's part of the story that I have is what God is doing for us and around us and having people step up and help. Um, I have never been this dependent on people ever in my entire life. And every day, my dependency grows. And every day, people step up to the plate and help. For that, I can only be thankful. I hope that you take the time to check out the blog. Hopefully, there'll be more videos coming up soon as I try to get some more done. And hopefully, this story meant something to you. Feel free to like us and comment. Hopefully, you can follow, and hopefully, there'll be some really cool things I can share with you as we go along. So, thanks for taking the time. If you made it this far into it, thanks for taking the time to hear my story. And hopefully, it encourages you in some way. May God bless all of you.